Well, happy Tuesday. You know, there was a thought that was shared with me many years ago, and this thought revolves around how to go ahead and live a fulfilling life, a life of fulfillment and intentionality. And it was actually two parts. The first part was never stop hoping and dreaming, otherwise, you're going to start settling. And number two is never stop growing and learning. So welcome to another Rare Leader conversation with myself, Tony Jalen, and this way.
Danielle Jalen.
Hi. So for those of you guys who are joining us for the very first time, either on YouTube or Twitter or on Facebook, and we want to welcome you. Our mission is to inspire you and to make an impact by allowing people to connect with one another, contribute one another, and to really make a difference out there. And right now, we are talking about regaining focus. There's an art to it as well. And I think, with so many things demanding of our time, it's easy to let the little things distract us of what our big picture is. Would you agree on that, Danielle?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, where do you start? I think today we're going to talk about the big picture. Imagine today if I gave you a blank canvas to basically um, rewrite or write the next 40 years of your life. What would that look like? What would you be hoping for? What would you want? What would you dream about? So we're going to talk about that today. If you've not got the workbook yet, please make sure to send myself a direct message. There's the Regaining Focus workbook. This is a gift from us to you in helping in regaining focus. What is defining the big picture? It's about knowing what you want. I mean, whether it be your relationships, whether it be your jobs, we all start with a big picture goal. But then, for whatever reason or not, we get caught up in the day to day and we let life distract us. And what happens is that the big picture gets painted over by all the little pictures. So last week we talked about, a few questions start working on this big picture. I call it an assignment. Number one, figuring out what you like, what your interests and preferences, and how they tie into your big dreams. Two, ask yourself questions, and they can't be easy ones. Um, and the thing that I was thinking about when I was going through this is that if I were to leave the world tomorrow, what would I want people to remember me as? You know, because this really getting to the crux of this type of the legacy that you'd like to leave behind can actually help you become more intentional and focused. And third was like get a little creative and ambitious. The last part of this is actually seems like it could be unrealistic, right? Because also the logical brain comes in and starts limiting us. Well, truth of the matter is that we weren't born with a limit. Like if you have kids out there, go ahead and type in the chat box um, that you have kids. And if you look at kids, I don't know if you remember this, Danielle. Do you remember the time in which we had Ezekiel do the blueprints for our home?
Yeah.
Like, what was like? Can you recall with the audience, everyone watching now, what's some of the things he put into that home?
I think the funniest was the slide from the different floors, and then a lazy river going around the house.
Yeah, I mean, there's no limits on that, right? And for me, that was inspiring. And I think as we get older, it's important to remember to tap back into that childlike faith. You know, so let's talk about like we went through this exercise again along with you. Like we're doing this again with you. We're not just sharing it with you. We're actually doing it alongside you guys in this walk. And the assignment was to come up with 101 things. And this may seem simple. However, though, it's not as simple as it may seem because I think there's some things that get uncovered when doing the exercise. Um, I think for me, the thing that I uncovered by redoing the exercise again, even though I do yearly goals and stuff like that, is that I was simply just focused on more what I can see in front of me, like this year's goals. What are some things that came up for you, Danielle, in doing the exercise?
A lot of what I wrote out for this year's goals, and then also started thinking of like, being able to pay for Ezekiel's wedding and his honeymoon, and to be able to save and be able to take care of our grandkids and our great grandkids and start trust funds for them, and just different little things like more out in the future, um, that are somewhat more realistic, I guess, than being able to um, buy a house on a beach or um, fly a private jet to our vacation so we don't have to stand in lines. Um, because we all have like the big dream things too. And so just like a mesh of both of those all coming together.
It's interesting to see, like, I didn't even think about Ezekiel's wedding there. That wasn't on my mind right now. And I'm telling you, folks, if I highly encourage you to go ahead and either request this workbook from us, there's no cost to you, or sit down and write down 101 things and follow the questions which we talked about in last week's live conversation. Um, and it's interesting you said the word realistic, right? Because how often do we let realistic thinking limit us?
Well, I think it's important to be able to dream and to expand those thinkings, but also like things that are more tangible and you can have. So I think I don't know that necessarily limits us in it, but like also just being real in the now, like what are things that we can be doing. Um, so I don't know that it's necessarily limiting.
Yeah, well, in some ways, I think it can be. And the reason why I think that, and then, like, there's no wrong or right answer here, is because, I look at our lives today from where we came from 20 years ago. Like, there's a big difference in terms of the things that we've been able to experience and things that we've been able to do. And I think by dreaming, it it gives you something to wake up towards in the morning. Because I think a lot of times what happens after a while, people just get satisfied with the status quo. And for me, I've learned comfort is my enemy, right? And I think sometimes as well, when we're dreaming, we're going through this big picture exercise, it's scary to actually think about that and to have hope for that. Why do you think that is?
I think from my point of view, like being staying at home and not contributing financially to our stuff, like it's hard for me to put those out there because I know you're go get her like whatever she wants. She's my queen, like my world. Like I want to make her happy. Like I feel it adds extra pressure on you in what the things that you are out there doing. And so sometimes it's hard to share those things because it's like, I just want to share them. Like they just sound fun. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to go do it tomorrow or in the next 10 years or whatever it is. It's just those are, it sounds fun. And
Mhm.
so sometimes it's hard to share those things when you do have somebody that like in my case, like being a stay-at-home mom, like I contribute by supporting you in everything that you do, but yet at the same time, I don't want to take for granted and discredit the hard work that you do for our life either.
No, and I appreciate it, and I get that, right? And I think that's where, when we look at the big picture, it's there's the material things, but also, if you think about like the experiences you want to have in your life, the areas you want to grow in your life, and the contribution, um, we got to become in order to get right. Because what got us here won't always get us there. And I think it's just important for people just to do this exercise. Because I mean, even though I have my booklet here that I did at the beginning of the year, I was going through it and I was like, oh, I got to number 26, and I'm like, huh, wow, okay. So now I've got to ask myself better questions, right? Because all human progress is preceded by a question. And so, was there anything that you thought of that you wanted to write down, but you didn't?
No, I wrote everything down.
You did?
Mhm.
Okay, what's something that you wrote down? And we're going to be getting to this part of the big picture here that made you put that big smile on your face and Got you a little bit excited just the thought of it.
Um, well, I think as little as it is, but like going in a hot air balloon, I wrote down just because why not? Um, Seeing a sloth in real life.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Um, and then some things like, building a house on a lake that has a view of both the sunset and the sunrise. Like, not being on a north south end of a lake, but like on an east west side where you can see both the sunrise and the sunset.
I like
Um,
it.
what else was a funny one? Visiting an Egyptian pyramid.
That's pretty cool. Like those are like I could just I mean if you're those guys to watch, you can see Danielle's face just light up when she started talking about that, right? And I think you made a good point. Sometimes I think we when we write things down, we think oh, like, it's got to be done, but sometimes it's just fun to dream because you never know
Mhm,
how it can come. Like you don't know like how you're going to be 10, 15 years from now. If you don't dream, then you're gonna just be at where you're at, right? It gives you little butterflies. I like the hot air balloon idea. I did not even think. Well, folks, for those you guys who are watching, uh, Danielle and I one time did skydiving, and initially I had a thought about taking Ezekiel skydiving, but I'm like, I'm not jumping out of the plane again. But Danielle was all about jumping out of a plane, and we actually did a static jump, which means that your first jump, you're jumping out of the plane by yourself, not with someone else. So. Um, what I did have on here, I wanted to have a workout facility that was like 5,000 square feet. Like I think of we go to Lifetime Fitness. I want a gym like that big. Like this, like people wants to come to our gym. It'd
mhm,
be that kick ass. Um, I had actually 4,000 square feet. This is something simple and small. I wanted a speckled covered garage floor, like that shiny floor and really bright lights. It doesn't it's not much, right? It's just a little thought for me. I want to be able to play a volleyball tournament with my family pain free. Like not be going ahead and going, oh my God, for 3 days because I'm so sore. Um, I want to go down and learn to do fly fishing and do trout fly fishing in Colorado in the streams there. I just sitting in the streams. I did say have a trip to Disneyland, Disney World. We're gonna be actually going there, ironically enough, so that can happen. There's this trip, there's this walk. I don't know if you recall that I've shared this with you before. It's like a Mecca walk. It's like 400, 500 miles, something crazy in Europe of all places. But you're backpacking and you're walking on this trail with all these other people. It was in the book, but it was a book by Dean Koontz. He talked about this walk of how like um, uplifting it was, like just got him to think about different things. I did write down a trust fund as well for my great grandchildren. Right, I thought that'd be pretty cool. I want to own a property in Belize. Why not? Belize is my thing. Um, I want to build a home for my mom, like your mom, actually. I put down so she can retire here with you. That's something that just gives you juice. And I think, again, folks, this is a blank canvas, right? There's no wrong answers when you do this exercise. So then what we do is um, you think about three different categories when you do this. Number one, what experiences you want to have. Number two, um, how do you want to grow? And number three, contribution, right? Because in order to get, you got to give. You got to be a really good giver. Um, And when you're doing this, you're taking time and resources out of the money out of the equation because although they're important, right? We need to get to the core of what we seek. Excuse me. And some ideas may seem a little far fetched. What's an idea that you wrote down, Danielle, that you felt like is a little bit far fetched?
Um, I don't know that they're all far fetched. Um, Maybe having an organized house, clear of clutter, would be a little far fetched for me. Um, Probably the biggest one is to travel to Fiji.
How many days do you have on there?
I said travel there. I didn't say if we were coming back or
I got 14. I did write down 14-day trip there.
um, travel to Costa Rica rainforest.
Oh, to go and hold the sloth monkey.
It's not a sloth monkey.
Oh,
Um, I don't know. I didn't really like. I don't think that any of them are like super far fetched. Like, I think they're all to me realistic and can happen. So
well, see, that's pretty cool. And I believe it too. Like, I think too is that, when you start to do this, and I'm gonna tell you, folks, there be me, some of you, when you write this down, you make it down to 12, you're like, oh my gosh, like, I can't think of anything else. And if that's you, send a DM. I'll put the little video together for you to walk you through the questions, because sometimes it helps when someone else is asking you the questions to get through the questions. Because it lights you up. Like when I did my one-on-one, I went through my booklet here for my reflection. And what I did in it is I actually wrote down my starting line for a lot of different categories for my health, for professional life, for financial life, for spiritual, and for family. I wrote down my starting point, like what I was currently doing. Where was I at? And it was interesting because I started going through my different apps and realizing like, oh, like I did really good at this. And then I'm like, oh, I'm not so good at here. And so here's what happens next then. So once you go through your 101 list, you're going to do what Warren Buffett did with his pilot. And he at the time told his pilot to write down 25 things. I usually do 30, but I thought let's go ahead and stretch ourselves to get 101. And it was identify the top 5 that are really important to you. Were the top 5 that really are important to you. And Warren Buffett did this with his pilot, said, you know what, those are your top 5. If you focus on those top 5, it'll more likely happen for your other 20. So it's going to cause you to rethink a little bit. If you to choose the 5 most important things that are to you. If you could guarantee you achieve any of the 5 things on that list, what would they be? Danielle, I know I'm putting this on you right now a little bit, even though we're walking through this together again. If you were to choose one of the top 5 that you want to, that if you could guarantee you achieve it, what would it be?
I think to start with would be just being my healthy goal weight, being fit and toned, and just being at my optimal health because I think that puts me in a better mind space to be able to reach any of the other goals, like being able to function at who I am at my peak best.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I put healthy and happy and full of vitality. I put 215 pounds and able to be so I can be more active because of all these things I want to enjoy and do, I gotta be able to like, you know, not go later on it. Now, why would identifying these 5 areas, these 5 things, help a person out?
Well, I think it puts you probably in the best position to win. Like, if these 5 things happen, it helps take care of the rest of the things that are going to, like, come up as far as hitting different goals, like, um, because these are the 5 most important things, most likely that are going to put you at your peak performance of, um, being your best version of yourself.
Yeah, I think when I look at it, they become your guiding light. 'Cause I think sometimes we wondering what we're doing. Like, what's our purpose? Like, why are we doing what we're doing, right? And if you ever have a problem about what to do next, and if you're focusing your energy on the right spot, you will know that, hey, you know what? I'm doing things to propel myself towards these 5 things. And it's not that you are saying, I'm going to be happy when these things are happening, right? Because a lot of these things you can do right now. Some people said to me the other day, like, hey, I want financial independence. And I'm like, oh, great. Well, why? Well, then they said, well, because I want to have freedom. Like, what's stopping you from having some freedom here today? And that's why questions and digging deeper makes such a big difference. Like today, when I was getting prepared for our conversations day, I'm like, no, I'm going to be intentional on getting this all dialed in. So I put my computer on sleep, like no emails, nothing up. I'll just be completely present. Um, there's a question from the book, The Magic of Thinking Big. Is what you're doing helping you get further closer to your goals or further away? How does that become a powerful question in the pursuit of these 5 um, areas of focus, 5 things that you want to achieve?
Well, I think if is it helping you grow yourself to hit these goals, or is it distracting you and pulling you in a different direction and leaving you in that space of comfort?
Yeah. Tell us more about that.
Well, I just think it's easy to get sidetracked and distracted, like being busy and thinking that you're doing all these things, but are the things that you're doing really helping move you forward and growing you? So, are you using your 20 minutes to scroll through social media? Are you using 20 minutes to read a book and grow yourself mentally, um, in that sense? And so, I think it all just comes down to what your 5 goals are that are important to you to determine, like, what are the things that I'm doing that are going to help me get there.
Yeah, I think these like with these 5 things here, why not post them where you can see them, right? And there's something I did not put in the workbook, but I'm going to put it in the workbook. We're going to actually edit this. Is why are those things important to you? I'm not asking you how you're going to get them done, right? I'm asking what are the reasons why they're important to you, like truly to the reasons that you've chose those 5. What makes that a powerful question to ask?
Well, I think knowing why they're important helps keep you looking at ways to make it happen versus just saying it and then, like, I want to be at my optimal healthy goal weight. And like one of the things I wrote down is to eat sushi once a week, but I know that doing that isn't going to help me hit that healthy goal weight that I want to get to. So, are they 2 of my 5 things that I'm going to have on there? Probably not. Um, like really looking at and prioritizing like what is important.
Mhm. And I feel this will be uncovered if someone's really truly asking themselves why they want to do it. Like really like asking yourself, like no BS, why is this important to me? I believe you're actually going to cover even a deeper reason above and beyond that one thing you chose. Like you may have chose this one thing, like could be optimal health. But then when you start asking the why, you might realize, no, I really want this instead. you know, and that goes back to that legacy part. And like, if you were to leave this earth today, like that's a thought for me is like, okay, what can I do to leave the world a better place? So we went into this again for a reason because we're doing it with you all. Right? You're not doing this alone. We're doing this together. Remember, connect, collaborate, and contribute is the three C's of rare leaders, right? And when it means to be a rare leader, is a leader who's resourceful, adaptable, resilient, and willing to engage with others. Um, Step two of regaining your focus is assessing. Because what's going to happen is you did this really thoughtful consideration. You came up with your big picture. You may not know how you're going to get there, but you know what you want. At this point is when your focus is already much better. Danielle, how do you feel now by doing this exercise again?
I just think that it kind of gives you, or gave me a little more energy in my days. Like, what am I doing with my days? Like, how am I structuring them? What am I scheduling them like? What does that look like? Knowing that we do have a lot of things going on, like, how am I being productive in those in between times?
Yeah. What I've learned is when I do this, my focus gets a lot better, right? Um, Rather than sitting down and, pushing papers around and, and whatnot, I go to work, I wake up with a purpose because I know that there's a goal waiting for me. And depending on your efforts, anytime you get distracted or derailed from going after the goals, you can remind yourself of your big picture. And this is where step two comes into play, calling assessing. Um, and I did this portion already a little bit today. And you're going to begin by thinking about, how you currently go about your days today, right? Think about how you focus on tasks, how you tackle new assignments, how long you can work on something without getting distracted. And so here are some signs that you are focused, right? You're alert and energized throughout the day. You have a spring in your step. You're not easily derailed from the alertness. What would you say are some other um, signs that you are focused in?
Um, I just think that you don't think about even actually what you're doing. You're just doing your next task that's going to keep you moving towards what your goals are.
Yeah. I mean, and I think too is that when you need a break, you take one, but you don't have to be on a break for too long because you know what you're after. Now, here are signs that you're not focused, and this is why this is step two of regaining focus. Regaining focus. You often find your mind wandering and drifting to another topic, right? You daydream often. You're on your phone often as a distraction. Um, when someone approaches you, engages you in conversation quickly, you can't seem to get back on track. Or if you do, you find yourself having a hard time with it. What are some other things you have seen for yourself in terms of times in which you're not focused?
I think it's easy to like just sit and chill and be like, oh, I'm spending time with Ezekiel and you, and we're watching a show or something. But I think at the same time, like that is intentional, like time together. Um, because I know for Ezekiel, he that's his like we're spending time together. Like he also needs that, and I think by being able to take a break and um, give that intentional focus and time and have a little bit of conversation is important. But like how long we sit in that place, I think is how easily we are can see that we're distracted and not focused.
Right. Well, next week, for those of you guys who are joining us live here, we're going to go into more details around assessing your focus. And we're actually give you tools that you can use to do little check-ins throughout the day to measure your focus. And, again, our mission is to inspire and make an impact and just really help make this world a better place. So if you felt value in today's conversation, please do go ahead and share the YouTube channel. It's Rare Leaders YouTube channel. You'll find us on there, also on my Twitter. And if you're not part of the Rare Leader Facebook group yet, I encourage you to make a request to it. So final thoughts, Danielle, as we sign off.
I think if you haven't finished the 101 things, finish it, and it can be anything like new windows, new blinds, like just anything that you see as a goal that you would like to do, like whether it's home improvement or work goals or vacations with family, um, things in the future, like different homes you want to have, like, maybe you don't want to live in the place that you're living forever. Like, where are some other places that you would like to have a home? Just really like the sky's the limit in thinking about it and just get them written down.
And I'm gonna finish on your final thought there is that sometimes we talk about this big picture, this dream list. It doesn't have to be big. It can be the smallest little thing in the world. So, I want to get up at 5 o'clock every morning, you know? So, we look forward to you guys joining us next week for part three of regaining your focus, and that's assessing. Until next time, I'm Tony Jalen with
Danielle Jalen.
appreciate y'all. Onward and up.